Okay, so we are going to go through the Kahoot, just a small game by which we review what we have done in on day number 1. So let us just get started. So true or false, MCNA can only be leveraged in a multi-cloud environment. So though MCNA really means multi-cloud network architecture, but we have a lot of advantages and a lot of customers who leverage Aviatrix in a single cloud, okay? Thus, it can be obviously extended to multiple clouds, and this could be another great advantage, but it can be also leveraged in a single cloud environment. So which of these is false regarding RBAC implementation on the Aviatrix controller? So UI options are the same. Only difference is in what you're allowed to do. Permission groups can be granted access to one or more cloud accounts. User must be created locally on the controller. So we're looking for the false one. Yeah. So again, if let's look at them just quickly one by one. So the UI options are the same. Only difference what you're allowed to do. This is definitely correct because when you do it on the controller versus on controller, you always see the same menus, but it's only the authorization versus on Copilot, it's more of a visibility thing. Permission groups, if you remember, you can provide the permissions and then you can scope them down to the accounts. Users must be created locally on the controller. The keyword here is must. Users can be created locally on the controller or can be on an IDP, but the must is what makes the statement false. The final one, the permission groups can be granted access to one or more permission sets. This is definitely true. Whenever you create a permission group, you provided the permission sets and you scope it to a number of cloud accounts that you want these permissions to actually apply to. True or false? Is the full mesh topology a compulsory requirement among the transit gateways? So the answer is false because you remember that we have two options whenever we connect transit gateways. One of them is to do full mesh, and it's a very common pattern. The other one is to do multi-tier transit, whereby one of the gateways becomes like a hub for the other transits. Again, this is not a route reflector. Data plane traffic will pass through that multi-tier transit. What happens when an attachment is established between a spoke gateway and a transit gateway? Let me just... So if you remember, whenever we attach the spoke gateway to the transit gateway, there's no BGP. So this is definitely false. The three private summary routes are injected. These are referencing the RFC 1918 routes. A default route is injected. That is not true. Hello packets are exchanged. There are no hello packets. It's just that whenever we attach the spoke to the transit, we go and the controller programs the three RFC 1918 routes into the VPC routing table to attract traffic towards the spoke gateway within the VPC. Question 5. How is multi-cloud network segmentation achieved? So remember, this is about network segmentation, network domains, VRFs. So it has nothing to do with security groups or IAM policies or network ACLs. the way network segmentation works is by placing these spoke gateways in their network domain or in the VRF to limit the routes that they can see. And it's a pure routing play. It has nothing to do with ACLs or security groups. We are just limiting the search space or the visibility from a routing perspective to certain prefixes by leveraging network domains and connection policies. Question 6, in the diagram with default settings, no connection policies have been defined. What route is seen on AWS Spoke 2 gateway? And let me just show you how I came up with this. So again, any route that is within the transit, I mean, we're always going to see inside, if a spoke is within a domain, we only see the routes that are within that domain or routes that are from another domain, but only if we have a connection policy. Because in the question we said no connection policies have been defined, it means that the prefix we should have should be part of the same domain, which is the segment number 2. So if I look at 10.0.100, that's in the transit. If you look at 172.1600, that is in the transit. If you look at 172.16.111, that's not gonna propagate because that is in a different domain and requires the connection policy. However, 10.0.112.0, which is the spoke 2 here, is part of segment 2. So without any connection policy, that prefix will propagate into spoke 2. Question 7. So what does Aviatrix airspace represent? The airspace is the distributed data plane. Again, it's just a way to express the data plane. There is no technical information here, but just remember that whenever we're talking about the airspace, we're talking about the distributed data plane, which is basically the whole fabric, the spoke, the transit gateways. In addition, as we discussed, we can extend the fabric to the edge. Okay, so this is the end of the Kahoot for the day 1 recap.